Yeah. What is your advice?
Well,
Like, I'm writing now. So what is your advice, like, on all these things? How should I push it?
okay. No, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. It's always good to ask blunt questions. you know, it doesn't have to be a fancy question. So the one thing I can safely say is, well, we're like in, what day is it today? It's like the 23rd of Jan, right?
Mm.
And let's just say until May the 23rd.
Yeah.
Let's see how many days, how many months. It's like, let's say there's like Feb, March, April, May. So this is like 4 months exactly.
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
months exactly.
Yeah.
So in these 4 months, you can imagine, I mean, I won't like redo the whole thing that I showed on the orientation, because I think I'll just be wasting your time. But
Yeah.
already you can already see here, if the numbers are just clear in your head, that 4 months times 30 days, you already know it's like 120 days, you see. So this number should not terrify you. That's the first
Yeah.
thing you want to do for yourself. You see, the best way to not be scared about things now is just face them head on, so that
Okay.
they don't creep up on you unnecessarily. Because if you avoid this number, you cannot avoid it when you now remember it's like 30 days left.
Yeah.
People only look at these numbers when they are now small. When
Yeah.
there's like 10 days left, that's when everyone knows, oh yeah, there's 10 days left. But then when there's still so many, it's like, they don't want to think it's important information, but it is. So what you can just do for yourself is, what you already know is that in these 20 days, I mean, 4 months, it's almost like 4 times, let's say 4.5. What is 4 times 4.5? Let me just get the idea here. 4 times 4.5. So I think it's good that we're also doing this, because we're at least doing it while, the ongoing processes are actually taking place. So in these 4 months, it's about 18 weeks, you see. And in these 18 weeks, I mean, like, just because of the nature of life, in these 18 weeks, about 2 days in each week, it's very likely that very little might happen in those 2 days because of whatever will be happening. So let's just say 2 days in each of these weeks, they are practically just, they're just gonna go somewhere, because we all know how life is. Things happen, things come up, you plan to do something, but it just doesn't work out. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, of these 120 days, valid days that you can safely say that, you know what, I mean, whatever happens, I'm definitely always, obviously, at least going to have some time to be focusing on the school. If you look at it nicely, it's like 120 minus 36. So now it's like 84 days. So what you can think to yourself is, this is very workable with. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, this is something you can work with, right? This is almost a good 3 months. See. So for yourself, since you're writing in June, the one thing you want to do differently is know your mark before you write. That's one thing I can say upfront while we're talking. You want to know your mark, and I'll explain just now. So what I mean by know your mark, I'm referring to how you'll always hear me say stuff like, you need to simulate the exam or something, you see. So you need to know your mark, or let's say marks, because since there's like maths and physics, you need to know your marks. You need to know your marks, and the way you end up knowing your marks is by simulating. And this PDF file, remember, I'll send this to you when we're done. So you need to know your marks by simulating the exam. So what I mean by know your marks by simulating the exam is that these 84 days here that you have to prepare, it's 84 days until, like, let's say the 23rd of May. And then from there, it's going to be a few days until you actually have to write. So what you want to do is, you want to know your marks, and you want to know them by simulating the exam. So when I say simulating the exam, what I actually mean is, take these 84 days plus whatever days you may have, and then bring them here, like bring them forward. Put yourself in a state of mind where you almost think to yourself, okay, fine, my exam is like here, right?
Okay.
But then this is today, you see.
Okay.
So you want to you want to start off, whether it's today or tomorrow, right? You want to think to yourself, okay, fine. Say the exam day was actually today. You want to ask yourself, how much am I actually going to get? How much do I have right now?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm,
because what all you have to do now is, that's the easiest thing you can do for your brain. Because,
mm,
you know, like worrying is okay, because worrying shows that you are concerned about something that's important to you. So it's okay to worry about, you know, exams and all that, but you want to use that worry to your advantage, you know,
okay.
in the
Mm,
sense that what you can do is put all the pressure here when you know you still have time, you know,
mm, mm,
like put all the pressure here, because remember, I mean, like you already do physics and we live on earth, we all know that pressure does not last very long. It's almost like a pot, you know, if you're going to cook something in a pot, it can boil forever, but eventually there's going to be nothing to boil. So
yeah.
there's not going to be pressure in that pot, you know. So you
Yeah.
want to use that pressure to advantage, but use it while you still have time. So these
Mm,
days, like today, tomorrow, whatever, like
mm,
simulate the exam if you can, you know,
mm,
just not if you can, like make it a priority to simulate your exams, you know. It's
mm,
just three
mm,
hours for
mm,
the maths, and it's just
mm,
3 hours for the physics, you see.
mm,
And then
mm,
remember, this is like times two now, times two, times two. So you already
mm,
know that this is going to be like 6 hours, 6 hours of your life. Now, what you
mm,
can do for yourself is you can spread this out over 4 days if you have to, maybe because of like your schedule, where one day you know you're going to definitely do this one, and then the next day you do another one, and then one day you do this one, and then the next one another. It's just 4 days. And
mm,
remember,
mm,
in those 4 days, you're not doing this so that you like cry because you get like a low mark or anything. No, 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 no. Like when I
mm,
say some of these things, I'm actually genuinely speaking based on what I would actually do. You know,
mm,
before I had to like start a paper or whatever, if I know I'm a bit under pressure, I just
mm,
find out what I have, you know, and I would write a paper. I would maybe get like 23% or 40% or whatever. It was always like a ridiculous small number, but it didn't
mm,
matter much, you see, because what that did was the simulating gave me an idea of the list of topics that I could maybe target first. You see,
mm,
so for example, remember with math, there's like 10 of them. You know, there's like
mm,
algebra, there's like
mm,
sequences and series, I mean, Euclidean, trigonometry, yada, yada, yada. So when you
mm,
simulate your paper, right, the idea is, remember, you're at home, you're calm, you're happy, you ate, you know, so your brain tends to think a bit better.
okay.
So you're going to be able to see better what is it that you actually understand and what is it that you kind of maybe struggle with a bit more than you think. So you'll be
Mm,
shocked maybe that, wait, I actually get a good mark for Euclidean. You know, I really didn't struggle math. And maybe you'll see, oh wait, with analytical, that was a bit of an issue. And then you'll have like a mental checklist when you'll be marking. But the big issue with simulating that most people bypass is the marking process. The
mm,
marking process is actually the big one because it's the one most people bypass. And when I say most people, I'm actually, you know, I'm a human too, so I'm including myself. You know, it's easy to bypass the marking part because it's not nice to see yourself, you know, getting things wrong. And you're already thinking, you're nah, if I'm getting it wrong now, what's gonna happen in the exam? And then it's like thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. So
mm,
just you doing that now, you see, you allow yourself to deal with the pressure now so that it
okay.
doesn't cripple you. You know, so
Okay.
the marking process, be very delicate and make sure you don't like brush through it, because as you're marking, remember the marking process, you need to make sure that you are somewhat um, familiarizing yourself with the memo, because the
Mm,
memo is like, I think that's what makes school or studying something a bit weird, because I mean, like, you have the answers already. It's sometimes just a bit strange to think that, wait, I just need to get this knowledge in my head without cramming it. And
mm,
remember, you cannot cram a memo, right?
mm,
But you have to use your brain to your advantage, because I mean, like, we all don't understand how the brain works, but we have a good idea that the brain can actually take quite a lot, you know, more
mm,
than we can expect, you know, and we have a lot of history and a lot of data to like supplement that thought. Because I mean, like, think of like all the things all the people their names, so many things about them, and you don't even need to think hard about it. If they brought 20 people in a room that you know their names already, you know their faces, you can remember them, you can remember where you met them, so the brain is capable of remembering stuff that it knows it needs to remember. So going through the memo sends a message to your brain that, okay, fine, I wrote this, but then I want to get to a point where I can write it like this, you see. So what's going to happen is, as you're studying, right, as you're reading whatever you'll be reading, and I'm maybe speaking more like on the physics side now, as you're going to be studying and reading what you'll be reading, you have to remember your brain will be able to connect stuff like what you wrote when you were writing, what you saw on the memo, and then what you're maybe seeing in the study guide. You see, that's when you start having those aha moments, where you maybe wrote something and it was wrong, but then you saw the memo that this is what you must do. And then as you're reading in your study guide, you now see it again. Your brain is now able to connect the three to say, when I do write, I should just write it like this because the study guide confirmed it. And then over time, that's more like a learning process. So that's what simulating does. It's almost like heating up the oven before you like start baking or before you start roasting. Yeah. So in terms of all that's happening now, right?
Yeah.
And with all the experience that you already have currently, I think this is the best thing. And remember, this simulating process is not something that you have to like do once. No, you can do it after every 3rd week or after every 4th week or something. Because remember, what's gonna happen is you're gonna simulate now, you get like a 40. You simulate again, you might get like a 45. But the more you're gonna simulate, you're easily gonna end up at like a 65. Because that's just how things are. It's the thing with school is it's a bit difficult to connect it to other things that are like blunt or like normal. Like for example, with sports, right? With sports, when a person is like practicing, right, they're going to be practicing at, let's say, a soccer field, right? And then these dimensions of this soccer field or whatever, I mean, it's the same dimensions as the ones on the day of the match. The ball they're going to be using, it's the same ball or shape or whatever as the ball they're going to use on the day of the match. So many things that we do when we're dealing with other aspects of life, they accommodate us when it's now maybe a scenario where it's like examined and we're tested or whatever. But with school, sometimes that's why there's a bit of a disconnect where everyone wants to study a certain way, but then they know that when they write the exam, I mean, it's something totally different. You don't want to have that disconnect. You want to make sure that as you're studying, you always relate between the two, as much as you can. If you're going to be studying, always now give yourself an opportunity to like actually write the exam before writing it. You study, you write, you study, you write. Because I mean, with sports, that's what they do, right? They're going to train a bit, fitness in the gym, what, but they spend more time here. You see, because that's where things actually matter. If you're going to be playing soccer, they cannot make you just run around the pitch the whole time just because they want you to be fit. No, you can be as fit as you want to be, but then if that's all I mean, the day of the exam, I mean, the day of the match, I mean, you're gonna be as fit as you want, but you're going to lose the match. Because so the idea with simulating is putting your mind in such a state that it is always linked to the end goal. Now when you can do that for your brain, that's when things start to work. Because now on the day of the exam, your brain is now not in a foreign land. Your brain is like, no, I've written this exam many times. I've sat down for 3 hours many times already. So me sitting down for 3 hours now, I mean, in as much as it's still a bit uncomfortable, I at least have a good idea that, I'm probably going to get myself a 68 or a 70 or a 50, whatever. Your brain, if your brain already knows, right, it's gonna be a bit more calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I get you. I should, because I haven't done that before, so I'll do that. to that.
No, it's cool, and thank you so much for the question, because I know I usually also maybe brush over this kind of a question, but I think this time you have already also given me an opportunity to go a bit
Yeah,
deeper,
yeah,
because I know I have spoken about simulating it before, but I think the way you've asked it
yeah.
it is helpful.